Hello, indeed, it is I again. My voice sounds so much like my mother's voice. When my father became older, he couldn't tell the difference between my voice and my mother's voice. That's how much my voice sounds like my mother's voice, even if I do try to modulate it occasionally. My mother was intelligent. She was compassionate. Oh my goodness, she was ambitious, not ambitious in a greedy way, but ambitious in a earnest way, high achieving. And think about toward the end of her life, she acquired some debilitating conditions. I don't know, what all contributed to that. I hear a lot of times people advertising like, if you have constant pain, well, I don't have constant pain unless it be, something nobody can cure. Well, the cure for that is just talking about it to help other people. Oh, good, good, good. Indeed, indeed, indeed. By the way, I do feel as if our educational system really began to fail us during the 1960s in particular. It really did. And it gave people all this psychobabble in their heads and replaced the Word of God, which they might have studied earnestly. And then they just read all this psychobabble. And then some of it would be like theories like from your favorite communist, the German Jew, Karl Marx. Yeah, he's my favorite communist. And he's also your favorite Jew. Oh, I hate Jews. You hate Jews? I just heard this voice like 4 months. Oh, the Jews. It's like, oh, I can't. That makes me cringe so much because I heard that in my family as a little girl growing up when it was politically fine to say things like that. By the way, I'm not Jewish, so it makes sense, right? I'm not Jewish and I heard this. Just the other day I was watching this funny video. It's like, you are spending too much time watching videos on YouTube. You should be going out and working and being very fat and, just slaving away for the system. Okay, I'm sorry, yeah, I did try that. That's why I got these degrees. Why did nobody hire you? They think you're stupid, ugly. Well, never mind, I can't tell you. I don't think, well, who knows? Is society resembling a utopia the further we gravitate toward that German Jew Karl Marx, or is it less so resembling a utopia? I didn't know until I read Dragon's Prophecy, just a chapter of it, recently, aloud to my family, because I don't read books unless I'm reading aloud. A lot of times people can't read books today. I don't know why. It could be the internet, it could be the phones, it could be something, it could be computers and phones. Well, we read a lot, but we don't read entire books. We read comments, and sometimes if people's comments are too long, we're like, yeah, save that for, your next professor. You don't need to just like post your little essay online. We weren't interested in your little essay. So I have certainly truncated my own comments online recently. And I've relaxed some of the punctuation, just trying to go with the vibe. But really, how is this working out? This resentment amongst the classes? How is this working out? Because if you look into Karl Marx's background, he had a great deal of resentment. Need I explain to you again? The Jews living in Europe at the time, in the 1800 somethings. Well, just look it up. Well, why don't you look it up, bro? There was a lot of anti-Semitism and even a fear of extermination, even before the Holocaust. And so his family had always been very Orthodox Jewish. This is the truth. I mean, unless it's been erased, but you can find it somewhere, right? And then one day his dad decided to convert to Lutheranism. And he's like, what? Everything I ever believed in, you just totally flipped the script, Dad. And he never forgave his dad for that. And so that kind of inspired his resentment and his hatred. I think he started to hate all religion because I think he had felt a sense of connection when his family were, I hope I'm not incorrect by saying they were Orthodox Jews. They were definitely very faithful, practicing Jews. And then all that was it was like the rug was pulled out from underneath him one day. And that was just not the right time to do that to him. That was just not the right time to flip the script. Correct? So look into this Mangione kid. There's probably something that happened in his family that he couldn't handle. And he reacted by killing a guy who was just working for a living, like Huey Lewis in the News. Really. I mean, you say he's a hero. It makes me so upset. You say these other people are heroes. It makes me so upset. They're just angry white boys, most of them, really. Of course, you did have Idi Amin and other people. So it's not all angry white boys that cause most of the problems in the world. To sound like a New Yorker. It's usually angry white boys that are dictating what people say. They tell the women, this is what you should say, and an angry white boy. Look at who AOC is affiliated with. Who's her boyfriend? Who's Candace Owens' husband? Well, I just thought, I didn't know. You didn't know because you just didn't have any curiosity, I suppose. Right. That's the problem. I mean, we just train people to we do what we're told. Milligrams 32, Peter Gabriel. We do what we're told to do. Don't be that person that just does what they're told. I mean, you could be different. You could be a Daniel. Used to be a song, Dare to be a Daniel. Be different from the people around you. Don't let that peer pressure destroy you. This is why we should always pray for and love our enemies, because you don't know what they experienced that made them into not so good people. I think they've just been like, while my guitar gently weeps, I don't know how you were perverted. You were subverted. They bought and sold you. I didn't understand that as a kid. I'm listening to my mom's Beatle records, trying to make sense of any of them, of what it says. It's like, Mom, what's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds? She says, actually, Erica, that's LSD. That's a drug. Oh, really? Like, they were really into drugs? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure the drugs are helping our society. Some people are really flipping out on, whatever they're being given. Like, well, this is going to help you to be a calm, rational person. However, this is not occurring. It seems to not be occurring, actually. And, the people that are just the Dudley Do-Rights. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything wrong. I probably have an addiction to porn. They probably have an addiction to porn. It's like, but they're judging everybody else for being a drug addict or a thief, It's like, that's, typical of human beings. Well, I just gotta find somebody worse than me. And as for the tattoos and the piercings, I've made critical comments about them before. But let it go. I'm not saying that's the ideal situation for your physiognomy. Did I pronounce that correctly? I'm saying if you're a good person, that's going to shine through. Whether you have piercings or you don't, if you're old or you're not, if you're young or you're not. Shine on. Who sang that? I don't know. Shine on. Is a Newsboys song. Don't hide your light under a bushel. And you may be struggling with a particular issue, and it may be hard for you to give up a particular label or lifestyle. But if I see something good in you, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm not going to just let that person fall off my list of people that I pray for. For example, which president was a perfectly morally upright president? We look at President Reagan as being a pretty morally upright dude. But in fact, he was the first divorced president ever elected. And he was probably the first Hollywood actor to be elected to the presidency. And then people would make fun of him. But he had a special way of delivering ideas, and he was sincere about it. I remember sitting in a classroom with a guy who's, obviously living a little bit not in the, he might be the proto non-cisgender professor. I guess you call him a proto non-cisgender professor. He was good, but he was just so biased. There was this girl in class that really tormented me because I was going back to school after having had a few kids, so I'm a bit older, like I'm in my 30s, trying to finish up my bachelor's. And this girl's like, she just talked really fast. She's like, just make fun of me. Like, she's just so it's like, I don't know if this girl's demon possessed or what. I just, I didn't do anything to her. I always try to be nice to her, but she wouldn't have any of it. That's okay. She would mock me. And a few times this professor actually defended me, and that was nice. But this just came to me. We were reading Wordsworth, which is poetry, so it's not as long as books. It's just poems, folks. And he is from Great Britain. And I raised my hand and I said, the thing that really strikes me about his poetry is that he seems sincere. He said, well, actually, there is a book about Wordsworth called The Poetry of Sincerity. I'm like, well, how did I know that? Because Wordsworth was, Shakespeare is very long-winded and kind of complex, but Wordsworth was more akin to our modern understanding, I believe. And then I had another professor who was a Jewish man, and he was kind of a big wig in the English department. And one day he just brought in the Bible and he set it down on the podium. And some of us were shocked. It's like, oh, I thought the Bible wasn't allowed in college. And he talked about it as a literary asset for the English speaking societies. And in fact, for I would say Western culture. And nobody protested. Nobody got mad. I'm just like, this guy is so brave. He brought in the Bible. I really like this guy. But did he really like me? I'm not sure he really liked me. He didn't really take me under his wing. It's okay. Because, well, we know why. So it's, yeah, we know. But do I resent? I mean, many of the people, even if they cause me pain in my life, even if they've betrayed me, listen, look at all of these experiences as formative experiences. And it's only too late that you apologize. It's only too late. Well, the person's already dead. You might have been nicer to them. Well, I didn't have the empathy that I should have had 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because I'm of a different generation. And, they're not instilling empathy in us. They're instilling selfishness in us. Yes, that's Generation X. A lot of people are a bit like Nicodemus. He really liked what Jesus had to say, but he only came to him during the nights because he didn't want people to see it, because he feared the disapproval of his community, and one can understand it. And then Jesus had a discussion with him. He said, you have to be born again. And Nicodemus says, how can a man enter into his mother's womb and be born again? You have to be born again from above. All these people that just really seem to be resisting God, I'm really recommending Les Feldick, because he's supposed to just be going through the Bible, but he just keeps getting back to the end times topic. So you will find that obviously in the book of Revelation, the book of Daniel, and I believe the other one is Zechariah. Do you really want to be on earth when the tribulation is happening? Because it's all predicted. And Les Feldick, I am not saying he is infallible, but he's the pure of heart. He's like, Jesus said, blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. Am I hanging my salvation on that alone? Faith, belief, believe what Jesus says. Because if that's God in the flesh, what is this phony religion that you've been practicing your whole life? And that could be Christians, it could be people that are para-Christians. You talk about those groups. I mean, you say you're struggling with certain things, like, well, I have terrible pain. I don't want to be you, because I would hate to have terrible pain. Like, oh, I wake up and all my joints ache and they feel terrible. Well, Joseph Prince says you can be healed of this stuff and still you're not healed, so I don't know. Well, now you're judging me. Oh, if you have insomnia. Oh, okay. When I was a young girl, are you just going to keep rambling on? Well, maybe we'll hit the 23-minute mark, and then maybe I should stop. That's correct. After my parents' divorce, I acquired something, that we might call chronic fatigue syndrome. And I just felt so sluggish, and I felt it was a real thing. I missed a lot of days of class in the 7th grade. And I thought, what's wrong with me? Do I have diabetes? My mother was a science teacher, so there were these little test strips, like you could dip this little paper into your urine to see if your blood sugar is too high. No, that's not what's wrong with you. So I had this medical dictionary, and I started reading about all this stuff. Well, maybe I have this disease. Maybe I have this disease. And so one time my mother said, if you're having trouble sleeping, maybe I can give you a sleeping pill. And maybe I could have taken it one night, but I think I mostly said, just no thanks, Mom. I don't want to get hooked on any kind of drugs. I just, I didn't want to do that at 12 years old or so. But I was really suffering. Of course. Believe people when they tell you they're suffering. Well, I have no empathy for you because you hurt my feelings. And that's the thing. A few years ago, I lacked empathy for other people. But as Joyce Meyer says, hurting people hurt people. I've decided, listen, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Don't be a big jerk and roll up on somebody that's going a little bit too slow. Unless you really have to get somewhere for an appointment or your job, just be polite and pass them. But let's say you drive a smaller vehicle and then there's this big truck. Well, it's going really slow. A lot of times if this big truck is behind you, it's going to pass you, but it's going slow because it's carrying a heavy load. And a lot of people just go through life almost in a state of somnambulance. And you know what that means? Sleepwalking. They just act according to their flesh or their instincts. Well, this person has a little car. They're just going slow. I'm just going to pass them. I used to be that way. Or they have an old car. It looks all beat up and ugly and, oh, those hillbillies, I'm just going to pass them. They're lucky to even have a car. Some people don't have cars. Do you realize? I'm looking for my big truck. God, thank you, Jesus. A big truck will show up in my driveway very soon. And it's all for me. It's all for me. Me. Well, I think you're getting close to the end of your message. Could you just wrap it up? I just want to wrap it up with judge not, lest you be judged. Because as human beings, we're not permitted to judge anybody. But there is one who is permitted to judge, and that is God alone. Thank you for listening. I'll go to 23 minutes. Just a moment of silence. Selah, right? Selah, Selah. You can have a moment of silence. This could be your moment here. Selah, Selah. Pause and think calmly on that. Selah, Selah.